subscribe. Tariq Radio. Like and subscribe.
Let's get Alondra. Let's get Alondra in here. Alondra.
Hello.
Hey,
Hi.
Alondra.
Hi. Coming from a Latino point of view of this, I do understand and I respect your opinions on everything that's going on. But I do want to mention some stuff. For example, the fact that I recently got offered a $2,000 scholarship, which I turned down, and I would turn down any other scholarship. And I believe truly that it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the fact that people choose to believe in the education system that traps them into these kind of payments. And also, I I really detest when people talk down on MLK and Rosa Parks because I was actually fortunate enough to learn about them through history books in school, and I know for a fact that they were actual leaders. Like they actually tried to make a difference for people,
Right,
and that's respectful.
right.
And also, like it's not. I don't know if you know about the Central Park Five and what Trump had to say about them, but I read an article and he was describing black people as a basically very, very bad. And I don't know if you took that into consideration, but like, at the end of the day, it's your opinion. I'm a respect it. That's all I want to
The
mention
thing
right now.
about the Park Five, the people who prosecuted them, the people who falsely imprisoned them, the people who demonized them were all Democrats. That was the Democrats out there in New York, the Democrat governor, the Democrat prosecutors, the Democrat media. They all demonized them. So yeah, I don't let the Democrats get a pass with that. They're not going to get to point the finger at one person. They were all in on it.
I understand, but like Trump was part of that group of Democrats that literally, instead of, you know, making it a focal or a third person point of view on it, it was very racist and very
Right.
direct.
Thing is, since Trump has been in office, Trump wasn't in office then. I'm going to judge by policies. Since Trump has been in office, Trump has not put together a policy that has harmed foundational Black Americans at all. Now, the Democrats, including Biden, Biden's policies, those three strikes and the crime bill and all of that, those policies devastated Black society. So they're not at any liberty to point fingers at anybody based on policy. Got it?
Okay, I understand. I'm not a Democrat. I don't vote for either side, so it's alright.
Now, did any of your people have they been deported? Anybody getting hit with those deportations?
No, I'm not really concerned. At the end of the day, I'm not losing. I mean, I'm switching sides on the land. Really, I'm not gonna be out here fighting over money and dirt.
Right, right. Okay, I'm just saying, because you have an accent, so you sound like you just got here from somewhere.
Yeah, for sure, I do. I'm gonna keep having this accent for the rest of my life.
When did you immigrate here, by the way?
That's not none of your concern, though.
Ma'am, why are you some kind of secret agent? I mean, it's not my concern. Uh,
It's not your concern.
okay, yeah, I'm just asking for the sake of conversation because you sound like you literally just got here. Now, so it sounds like
Oh, thank you for the opinion, but no, I did not. I've been here for a
it
while.
sounds like you're scared that you might get rounded up. That's what you sound like.
I'm married to an African American and white person, so no, I'm not scared. Thank you
What
so much.
anything? You could still get rounded up. They're not going to help you get.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, they could come knocking on my door. I'm not afraid of them.
Okay, but yeah, if they take you back across the border, what's your African American husband going to do?
That's up to him. He can either come along or he can stay and build his own family over here. I don't
And you
care.
think he's going to
Either way, I'm not gonna worry about shit that's not involving me.
right? That is involving you, man, because they might round you up, and
Okay, then have them come.
you're going to lose out on your black daddy. Black. I don't think Black Daddy is going to go over there to Mexico.
That's fine with me. I mean, at the end of the day, look, like I said, I respect your opinions, but they ain't got shit to do with me. So,
Well, it kind of does because you're an immigrant, and there's a crackdown on immigrants. So we're just asking to see what your status is to make sure you're good. And I hear a baby in there, so I don't want nothing to happen to the baby. So That's what we're asking about. We're just making sure you good over there, right? Right, Alondra? Alondra's not saying anything. I think they found it.
Okay, thank you, Tariq.
Okay. All right, Alondra. Thank you so much, dear. Okay, Alondra's talking about that's not my concern. The hell you talking about? Why are you getting so defensive? I mean, it's not my concern. I'm this. What are you so defensive about? Yeah, you clearly are fresh off the boat. You got an accent. You can barely talk. So I'm not being mean spirited, ma'am. And she went over here and got a brother. I done told you about them niggas. Yeah, they come over here and get with brothers now. I done told y'all. I broke that down about a month or so ago. I done told y'all that's what them Latina chicks are doing. They running up on all the brothers now. Yeah, they coming over here getting booed up with the brothers. I done talked about that before. Where y'all brothers at? See, that's when you see some of these dudes out here who might be from an FBA lineage, when they're caping for immigration. Hey man, we need to stop being divisive. That's a Negro who's trying to get some damn Latina cooch. All right. That's one of these old thirsty ass Sambos who's trying to get a chica. They're trying to get some Latina tang. Come on now. It's black and brown coalition is real here. Hold on, Tariq. All this old FBA stuff. Now my lineage goes back all the way to slavery, but I still want me some Mexican women's around here now. I got to have some Mexican women's now. Come on now. You can't deny me that. Yeah, your eyes is bucking out here. Yeah, that when you see Negroes out here talking about, oh, we gotta uphold the black-brown coalition, that's them trying to get some Latino sex. That's what that is. You trying to get some Latin sex, fool, thirsty ass.
Do you see that as a dilution when that happens?
A delusion?
Yeah, a dilution, like a diluting the bloodline.
No. It's not a diluting of the bloodline. It's just thirsty as hell. You're just being thirsty, and you're pawning your political advocacy off for some sexual access. What's on? How you doing, man? What's on your mind? Diligent.
Yeah, there was something interesting that you brought up. I'm more curious about the policy perspectives because, first of all, it's amazing to me that that's the position of most of the migrants who come here, regardless whether or not Trump is in office. They immediately have like some kind of uh, hatred towards Trump or the Republican
Right.
Party. But you were talking about how Donald Trump hasn't enacted any policy that has, been harmful towards foundational Black Americans. I'm just curious, are there any policies that you're waiting to see him implement that will benefit FBAs?
Yes, I'm looking for a policy that is lineage based, that's going to provide tangibles for our lineage. And I'm open to see what it would be. There's a lot of options that we could utilize. But I want a policy that's going to be lineage based that provides tangibles for us.
So normally I would use this opportunity to like debate your position, but I don't want to because I don't really fully understand it. So I'm not coming up here to argue with you. I'm coming here to get educated.
No, we'll
So
talk about that. No. And you can talk about anything here, by the way.
yeah, that's cool. I listen to your spaces all the time. What lineage based? How does one how do you prove lineage then? Because there is a lot of disparity there, right? Like, how do you prove somebody's a foundational Black American through lineage? Is that genetics? Like, how exactly do you prove that?
Man, it's easy. Paperwork. It's very, very easy. All you got to do is just trace your lineage back to the 1870 census. That's it. That's easy. You can do that on ancestry.com. You can do that very easily. That's why we're trying to get like freedmen's bureaus set up now so that we can have an official institution that can track this lineage. It's not that hard at all.
So pretty much the census from right after the slaves were freed.
Right.
Slaves were freed,
Right.
right?
Yeah. If you're
And then And so do you have a number, like an estimate of how many people that is?
That would be, I would say it would be about 43 million. It's about 43 million foundational Black Americans. Yeah, it's about 43 million foundational Black Americans. There's only a handful of African and Caribbean immigrants here. I think it's like 3 or 4 million at the most, something like that. I might be a little loose with the numbers, but I think it's around.
I think it's increased a lot over the last 4 years.
Yeah, but there's 43 million, at least 43 million foundational Black Americans, and there should be tangible policies for that lineage. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Um, it's a weird notion to me because there is historical precedent. So if you look at what happened with Germany
Right?
and Nazi and all of that, right? They've made reparations for a really long time, large amount of money. With the United States, one could argue that we were the spearhead of abolishing slavery, right, and moving out of that dark part of the world. And I don't mean that in any kind of pun, even though I didn't think about it ahead of time. But anyways, um,
That
that's there's an argument, there's a debate to be had
oh,
there.
slow down, slow down. Let's slow down. I'm muting you because we got to slow down. Let's slow down. Let's unpack that whole thing. Well, we stopped slavery. We have to. We no, no, no. That's like driving a rental car and not paying for it and say, well, at least I put gas in it. That ain't it. You got to pay for the rental. You used this car, you drove it around all over the place, put all types of miles on it, put all types of wear and tear on the car. Yeah, you have to pay for that. You have to pay for the rental. You have to pay for the use of the car. You're not going to get props for just putting gas in the tank and bringing it back. So here it is. Here you go. No, there's wear and tear on this motherfucker. You need to pay. Just like us, there's wear and tear. Y'all wore us the down for centuries, made us work for free. We couldn't get out of it because of the federal government. They did all type. We had zero rights, getting and brutalized and maimed and killed and decapitated and castrated. Children sold away from us, forced to breed, just the most demonic, inhumane things imaginable while we're building the wealth of the nation. So we have to be compensated for that, sir, right?
So you don't have to mute me. If you want me to stop talking, just let me know. I
But
won't talk over you.
you
But anyways, because there's a double glitch, so it's like hard to respond. But
didn't hear.
uh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was talking. I was trying to interject, and you didn't hear me. That's why I muted. I didn't do it to be rude. I don't think you heard me. So when I'm talking and you're talking, you might not.
I get it. I'm a Spaces host. I host Spaces all day. So I think that, fundamentally just my belief system, and I may be wrong. So let me just start from that. Like my position might be wrong, and I'm going into this conversation with that being stated. I think that all of the people that those atrocious things happened to, and they were atrocious and they did happen, are long dead, right? And I don't feel like that the burden of the past should just rest on the shoulders of a few in the future, right?
No,
And we don't know that I'm almost done. We don't know what the collateral effects of that might be for a huge swath of the population.
no, stop. Let's stop. No, the people are not going. The government, the United States government, did that, sir. The United States government did that to foundational Black Americans. The government is still here. This is not a different empire. This is the same government, same constitution. They've made a few amendments to the constitution, but same constitution, same government. So the government owes for what it did to a very specific group of the citizens here. Every other group has been compensated. I wasn't around when Native Americans were being removed, the red ones, when they were being removed from certain lands that they occupied. I didn't have anything to do with that. I wasn't around, but guess what? My tax dollars still go to some of those red Native American tribes right now. You understand? Why? Because I'm a part of the US government. The US government had us enslaved. They were brutalizing us. When we tried to escape, it was the US government sending the military down in places like Florida to fight the Seminole War. The US government having the Fugitive Slave Act, where they would go and get foundational Black Americans who escaped and went to free states, especially out here in California. When people talk about wasn't no slavery in California, yes, the hell it was. The Fugitive Slave Act was reaching out here to California too, bringing people back into slavery. So it's the U.S. government that owes. That government is still here, and we should be compensated by that government because the debt is still there. You don't just get to wait out a debt and say, I'm never going to pay it. No, that debt has to be paid. This is something that's owed. That makes sense?
Uh, to a degree, again, I fall back to you said, for example, you cited Native Americans. A lot of those treaties and compensations were set up immediately after or shortly after, historically, the fact that those atrocities occurred, not 100 or 150 years later, right?
Well, they set up immediately the 40 acres and a mule thing. After slavery, they said, okay, these people can't really compete. We're going to have to give them 40 acres and a mule. And surprisingly, the people who were against that were the white Northerners, the white people who were, oh, we're so liberal, we're the abolitionists. They were the main ones against that. So the white Northerners got with the white Southerners, and then they said, hey, we'll pull those federal troops up out of the South, and you can have your way with those Negroes. And the abuse commenced. So yeah, we were given some paperwork saying that we were going to get compensated. Then they reneged on it, and they need to make good on that, sir.
I wasn't aware of that. What can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
sincerely.
Look up 40 acres and a mule. The Special Field Order 15. Am I right? Some of the folks in the room, I think it was Special Field Order 15. Um, that Lincoln's administration was going to give to us. They assassinated Lincoln. They put another guy in, and he was like against it. The Northern whites were against it, and it became a whole thing. Then there was the Great Betrayal. There were federal troops that were in the South protecting Black people. They pulled those troops out, and then they started to implement Black codes where Black people were just being abused and lynched left and right, and the North and the federal government didn't do anything about that. So the degradation and the remnants of slavery that was negative continued to be passed down, and all of the wealth and the resources built from that free labor continued to be maldistributed into white supremacist society. So that money didn't go anywhere, the wealth didn't go anywhere, and the debt didn't go anywhere. So that debt needs to be paid, and that's just the right thing to do, right?
So how much is the debt? Do you guys know that?
Gonna start, I think the starting number, we're looking at 15 trillion to start. That's going to be a great start. 15 trillion to start. And we can work it out from there. But 15 trillion.
How, what does that break down to per? You said 40 million FBAs, right?
Yeah.
So like what?
Yeah.
How much ahead?
I think we broke it down like was it like 100K a person, something like that? We broke it down. The way we broke it down was, I want to say around 100K. It was something like that. But yeah, that was some of the numbers. Do you think that's a fair number?
I mean, I think it's out of the capacity for an individual really to decide, what's a fair number. I mean, we're talking about, wrongs committed outside the lifetimes of anybody that's here.
Right.
So we don't really know the gravity of the crime. And we don't know how to translate until I'm almost done. I'm just answering your question. We don't know how to translate that into a monetary value that we have today. I mean, that's what you're citing is half of the national debt. What would that do to the entire country? It would collapse if we paid that much.
Or it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't, because the money is not going to be used on foreign entities. It's not like you sending money to the Ukraine. Sir, they've done this assessment with Doge, and they found all types of money. They're up into the billions, the billions, the billions of dollars that have been wasted and spent and thrown around all over the world from our tax dollars. That has not collapsed the economy. Only when it comes to compensating foundational Black Americans, there's the doomsday scenario. Give us that money from the Doge expose. All of this money that's being exposed by Doge, those could be used as reparations, sir. That's not going to bankrupt anything. When they were sending money to the Ukraine, that didn't bankrupt us. When they were giving money to these immigrants coming over here, non-citizens are coming over here, getting all types of resources, money, credit cards, housing, medical resources. That's not bankrupting the country, and nobody's complaining. The complaints only come when it's time to compensate the people who have been really, really aggrieved in this country, and that's foundational Black Americans. So we should be compensated, and we're going to be compensated. So that's not even a question of if, it's just when and how much, right?
I again, I can't speak to whether or not that's going to happen, and I'm not even saying like I said earlier. I started with there is a historical precedence here. I still don't agree with it just based on what I said, but it doesn't mean that I'm right. I was just going to finish with how do you think that the American people, because the burden falls on the taxpayers,
Right.
and there's a big distinction between the billions that Doge is finding and the trillions that you're talking about. That's an order of magnitude larger number, right? So like I feel like there's a little bit of an underplaying of the significance of how much of $1 trillion is, or
So
trillions
think,
in the multiples.
okay, so you in your world, how much do you think would be a fair number for us, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I just told you that I didn't believe that it was fair at all.
Oh,
So, I mean, I don't understand.
yeah. So what you're doing is arguing in bad faith. You don't think any number is significant.
I'm not arguing at all. I tried to tell you that I didn't want to argue. I was asking questions because I don't know.
Listen, no, not arguing like we're yelling at each other, just presenting your counter net.
Yeah, I said I wasn't going to debate you. I wasn't trying to debate you. I wanted to learn more about your perspective. I've listened to you many times. I find you to be entertaining. You're obviously educated, and you believe what you believe. I don't think that you are doing it because you really want to see Black people, especially foundational Black Americans, do better as a whole. And I respect that. And I can tell because your messaging is consistent.
Right.
So, whether or not we agree is moot to me.
Right now, hold on. Let me get my brother McCall in here to speak with you. Okay, my brother McCall, the good brother. Brother McCall, hop on, sir.
Great Minister of Code. How art thou?
I'm so good, Mr. Ambassador. How are you, sir?
Just living the dream and winning.
Yes.
Listening to our friend, Mr. Is it Diligent or Diligence, sir?
Diligent.
Oh, that's excellent. And you are indeed diligent. I mean, we see you here diligently soaking up the enlightenment. But, my friend, you seem like a very nice guy. I mean, really nice guy. And listen to me for a minute. There is no shortage of wealth or no shortage of money on this planet. Number two, don't be a John Wilkes Booth sympathizer. Let me repeat that. Do not be a John Wilkes Booth sympathizer. And lastly, how's your family? How's life? Is everything okay?
Life is beautiful, man. Praise
awesome.
God.
Thank you. Praise God. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you, my friend. Take care of yourself. Thank you, dear brother. Love you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, Mr. Diligent, now, where in Europe is your family from, by the way, sir?
Oh, my heritage is broken up amongst people in Europe and people, I think, in Latin America.
Okay. So you're a white Hispanic, right?
No, I'm not. I'm white. I'm white European. If you saw me, you'd say I was white or Caucasian.
Oh, okay. So you say Latin. So
I mean, there might be something back there on my dad's side. My mother's side, I'm very educated on my bloodline. It's all European, Western European. My dad's side, it gets a little murkier.
Okay. Let me get my brother Ty Powell in here. Brother Ty, hop in.
Hey, can you hear me, Flex?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Yeah, that number is actually 48 million foundational Black Americans, and there's 5.1 million Caribbeans and Africans, and they're all 82% is in New York and Florida. Yeah,
That's what I.
yeah. So it's only 5.1 million Africans and Caribbeans as of 2024.
Did you say 48 million foundational Black Americans?
Yes, and it's 5.1 million Caribbeans and Africans combined. They're all in New York and Florida.
So how would a payment be issued, right? Because obviously we couldn't do it all at once. Are you pretty much saying like what the Indians have,
Yes,
where
yes,
they are rolled out like an
correct.
allotment over
Yes,
time?
Yep.
yes.
Hmm.
It,
Just
it,
like that.
it can be done just like that. Hello?
Would that just come out of our national budget? Doge isn't going to pay for that,
Well,
cover
it would
that. So
come out
like
the same as
what?
the Ukraines or, anybody in Eastern Europe, how they got payments the same way.
Right.
So so you realize, right? Because we live in a debt-based society. So if we increase the amount of cash in the system by that much, that the price of goods is going to
That
increase,
wouldn't that wouldn't touch the
parallel,
price of
right?
goods. That's two totally different things. Debt and the
Well, I
national
mean,
goods.
you're increasing the money supply, right? But you have the same amount of goods,
We're using
so that increases inflation.
the money that's already here. We're utilizing.
Right.
Yeah, we're utilizing the money that's all. We're not going to print new money. We're just going to use the money that we already got. The money. We're going to use the money that's already here. That makes sense.
I mean, no, that doesn't make sense. You say money that's already here. What money? What money exactly? The money that there's money allocated for certain programs and initiatives in Congress. So you're talking about
The money that they're giving illegal immigrants to come over here and live. That money. The money that we're sending to the Ukraine. That money. The money that we send to Israel and all of these other Middle Eastern countries. That money. Right. Let me get Kanye in here. Let me get brother Kanye in here. Brother,
Yeah, how's it going?
how you doing, brother? Oh, it might be a double mute there. There you go. Unmute your mic, brother Kanye.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, how you doing, Diligent, man? Question for you. Are you a representative of the government?
Absolutely not. I live in a representative government, though.
Okay, question for you. So, our claim isn't against you or your ancestors. Our claim is against the government. Would you say the government is alive and well?
But I just said that, as I just stated, we live in a representative
Gotcha,
government.
gotcha,
So
gotcha, gotcha.
the
So you
government
would
consisted
say,
by the citizens, right?
yeah, 100%. So you would say, and you would agree with me, that the government uh, did this injustice against our people, correct?
I would say that the government in the 1800s did an injustice, or 1700s, or however long you would say did an injustice against your people.
Well, be that as it may, it's the same government, correct?
No, the government that existed back then is dead, right? That's
You
because we
sure
have a
about that? Because I could have
representative.
sworn they all use the same constitution, unless they, change the constitution for some reason.
The Constitution is the foundation, the founding document. It's not the government itself.
Gotcha.
The
So
people who
with that
perpetrated.
constitution, because this is the time wasting method, with that constitution, they did write in there that our people was 3/5 of a human being, correct?
In the original document.
Sir, the constitution.
Yeah, I didn't. I've never seen that. Is that
Gotcha,
it
gotcha.
said
So you
that?
never heard of the 3/5 rule.
I've never seen it.
Okay, so just a quick education. The Southerners down south were complaining about losing the elections, and they counted slaves as 3/5 of a human being to help them with the population deficit. You understand that part, right?
I understand that part.
Gotcha, gotcha. That was written into the Constitution because it affected who could lead the country effectively. You see what I mean? So
Yeah, but it wasn't a part of the original
anything
document,
pertaining
right?
that, anything pertaining that has to be a constitutional amendment.
So just make sure we're on the same page. There was a constitutional amendment applied to the original document that said that African Americans or Black people were only 3/5 of a person. That's what you're saying right now.
It's a simple Google, but yes. But to get back to my larger point is our claim isn't against you or your people or the taxpayer. Our claim is against the United States government, which they have no problem finding money for things that they deem worthy to pay. It's only when it comes to us they try to give us symbolism and tokenism. Now, during the internment camps, I think it was during World War II, when they rounded up all the Japanese citizens, they paid them people like 20 grand a piece, and they were only there for a few years. So it's like, okay, we see them doing that. They didn't give them the statue. They didn't say, you know what, you guys are really hard. No, they paid them for that. And it's not even the just the whole slavery situation. What people don't understand is after the slavery breakdown, the only people who could do skilled labor in this country were Black Americans in the South, or who did skilled labor in the South were Black Americans. And what they did was they came in with these black codes after that, because truth to be told, as racist as these Europeans were, or Caucasians, or whatever you want to call them, they still like quality work. And the only people doing the quality work was black folk. So what they did was they still hired those people, right? Paid them. You can debate about the wage or whatever. But then government came in with these black codes saying, hey, you can't hire these people. You have to hire this white man. So that was the very first version of DEI. So it's not just about just the slavery, it's about the land they stole. It's about the positions that were lost, all because government mandates. See, when the federal troops pulled out of the South, they knew what was gonna happen. So it's like when you look at all of that injustice, and like the brother told you, 40 acres of the mule was actually a order that was supposed to be given to us. They reneged on that. Now you take a look at, you can trace your ancestry back. 'Cause trust me, they kept good records. When you trace your ancestry back, you ask yourself, how much would 40 acres in a mule be worth today in some of this land? So again, I don't understand why every Caucasian person all of a sudden becomes a lawyer for the government whenever we have this discussion. And it is the same exact government. It's not. It's
I'm
not.
just
Not
worried
different.
about the. I just concern myself with the. We're already in dire straits as it is, and so whenever I see people trying to increase the burden on a system that's already collapsing, I have pause,
Okay,
and
well,
it's
this thing,
nothing.
the system in itself, right? Anytime Congress needs money, they suddenly find it. Correct.
No, they print it. They don't find it. They print it.
What's the difference? They find it. That was air quotes
Well,
there.
I mean,
Find it.
because the difference is the fundamental issue I just said. You increase the money supply without increasing the demand. That creates inflation. You can never move away from that concept. It's a fundamental part of economics. It's very
You know the
simple.
ability to forget their debts, right?
But I listen. I'm not arguing that it
You know they
shouldn't
have that
happen.
ability. Oh, I get it, but your point you're trying to make is that we don't deserve anything because of the time and then the debt and blah blah blah. And
No, you were
like
you
the
were right. So the three fifths rule. And I haven't had this conversation in a long time, but I do remember that now. It was abolished in the mid to late 1800s, right around when all of the slavery was getting abolished. And so what you're arguing is, if maybe correct me if I'm wrong, right? Your position is that you are owed from the government. And I say we because the burden falls on the taxpayer. So even though I'm not a representative from the government, everybody in the country would be affected by a payment of that scale. Can we agree on that?
not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but okay,
Well, okay, so check this out,
potentially,
right? So
but
apparently what they
potentially.
learned, let's listen for a second, right? What they learned from Doge was that if they took 20% of the waste that they saved so far, that's enough for every American household to get $5,000. Are you aware of that?
But again,
I mean, that's
but
a yes or
again,
no question, but you're aware of that, right?
well, I mean, the number's changing every day. I
But
haven't.
what you
No,
get
I'm
is
not aware
going
of that.
up every day, though,
It's not
right?
a
So again,
talking point.
you said what now?
It's an elimination of wasteful spending, right? So you're
Now,
counting
you know,
something
like
that's
I know,
being
once those funds are allocated, they're going to be spent on
well. That
something.
so you're making a presupposition there. I can't
No,
argue.
no, I'm not.
That's
I'm
speculation
making
and
a statement
conjecture.
that's true. Okay, listen, right? And God, I can't believe I'm getting this. You do realize that they took money from FEMA that was supposed to support natural disasters and moved it over to immigration to help people who were sneaking
100%.
across
I
the
know
border.
that. Yep,
All right, so
it's
you know
sketchy.
when they say, "Hey, you know what? We cut all these programs in USA, and we have enough money to 20%. 20, if it did 20%, it's 5,000 per American household. Again, you know that money is going to be spent because it's already been allocated, which is why they run around talking about this conversation about the purse. I understand this stuff. So you get what I'm saying. Like, why are you trying to
But
go
you
around?
understand that the intent of Doge is not to reallocate funds; it's
Well,
to stop
that's not what he's
spending
saying.
them.
You know, I would agree with you if they didn't come out and say float this $5,000 idea.
Yeah, somebody posited that idea online, and nobody. I haven't heard anybody. First of all, it wasn't a $5,000 idea. Elon Musk proved that it was Axios or whatever publication put that out. It was wrong. I think it was Bloomberg, right? Said it was a lie. What he floated is that a small percentage of the savings created by Doge go back to the American people. and he didn't say how much of a percentage or give a final number.
In
So
the
the
forms of
5,000
file,
thing is
okay,
not
well,
true.
how you ever, because I mean, let's just for the sake of argument, because we'll go down the road. But how you ever, you do understand, right, that money, even though it's not going to these harmful causes, right? We're not giving $7 million to some drag show in India, whatever the fuck we're trying to do. We're not doing that anymore. So what happens at 7 million? It just sits in limbo. They're going to use it. They're going to do something with it. You know that as well as I know that, right? And all we're saying is, wait, we see all this wasteful spending because, again, we seen what they're doing with these NGOs and how they funding all this illegal shit off the book. I mean, quote unquote, through these nonprofits. We see that, and now we see they're slashing that. That money is still there. Now, if you take a look back at some of the oldest debts in this country, I think that 40 acres and the mule one is kind of right up there with that. And I think that, just my personal opinion, right, and also the opinion of a lot of other people, that our government should pay its debt to its citizens. But I understand you disagree because at the end of the day, you guys all have to uphold the system. And this is what system participation looks like. Well, I'm not a part of the government, but I will defend the government against some of the wrongs that they've done. Listen, if our government is wrong, our government is wrong. Now, whether they want to right their wrongs or not is a whole other conversation. And we're just looking at this as American citizens who pay taxes in this country for centuries at this point. And we're saying, you know what? As a tax-paying citizen, you guys have this big ass injustice out against my grandfather. Because what y'all don't understand, now your people immigrated here at some point, but I still carry the stories of my great great grandfather because he told my great grandfather and my grandfather told my grandfather and my grandfather told my dad and my dad told me. So when you look at this shit, like, wait, we had land X, Y, and Z. Yeah, they took it from us. See, that's what this shit boils down to. If the government blows up your house, be that 5, 6 years ago, at some point you want your money for it. Even if you die, it goes to your estate, correct?
I mean, there was a lot to unpack there, but for that last statement, yeah, I can
We'll
agree
just
with
keep it
you on that.
simple. If a famous person dies, his estate, if they did the paperwork right, they still control his music, right?
Yeah, theoretically.
Yeah, so if they sue somebody, it's not them actually suing, it's the estate suing, correct?
Correct.
So why is this any different?
I would say, who's going to pay for the 40 acres
Why'd
and a
you jump
mule
in
with
right
what
there?
with
Don't
what
save him.
money? With what
Don't
money
save
are
him. Don't
people going
save
to be
him.
able
Don't
to
save
have?
him. Don't save him.
I have a question, and I haven't
Yeah,
been able
just
to
wait
get a
till you
word in
finish.
edgewise.
Bruh, do not
If we
save him.
gave every brother and sister in this
Oh
country
my God.
a
There's
40
no
acres
Y'all
needing
and a
to
need to
mule,
time
save.
this,
how
sir.
are they going to pay the taxes on their 40 acres and a
Boy,
mule?
this is terrible
I
timing.
want to answer to that question
Got you,
because
got you.
ain't
You know how?
nobody got no money for
I
40
got you. You know
acres and
how?
a
You know
mule
how? You know how?
property taxes.
I got you. I can answer that
Let's talk
question.
about that.
I got you.
Hold on, John.
Mind your business. Anyway, Dylan, like I was
Well,
saying,
it's not
right?
my
If
business. It's a
if we
goddamn
say
question.
that they
How you gonna
literally,
pay for your 40 acres and a mule? Ain't nobody got no money.
you
That's
ready
like
for this?
Oprah giving away free cars and they had to
Uh-huh.
sell their cars because they ain't had no fucking money.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I
Yeah,
was alluding to that. Where
but
everybody's
There's a
oh
broke
way
my
to
God,
anyway.
that's
solve
But
for that,
go
though.
ahead.
that was
Obviously,
so terrible.
there is a
That
way
was
to
such a
solve for
horrible
that
point.
issue.
You do realize if the federal government gives you something, they can just remove the taxes from it, right? It's not like a lottery sweepstakes. Anyway, back to the adults having a conversation. But you
That's
understand
not
I
the
what
mean,
they're
point I'm
gonna
making,
do.
though.
Property taxes
you
are
were
property
making
taxes.
you were making an assumption that the money that's being saved by Doge is going to be spent on something that could be equally as frivolous or just be spent on something, period. When the entire concept of Doge
Well, I
is
don't
to
consider it
eliminate
frivolous though.
spending
Let's be
at
clear.
all.
I don't consider reparations frivolous, and that's where we differ.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying that you said that the money was going to be reallocated to another purpose, and that's an assumption. We don't know
That's
that. We
a
don't know that.
fact.
What's that?
That's just a fact. Wait, do you know how our government
Well,
works?
then why do we have Doge? What's the point of that
The
endeavor? Are you
point of
saying that
the point of
it's a
having
fraud?
Doge was to stop them sending $8 million to some bum country to put on the goddamn drag show. That was the point of stopping Doge. The point of Doge was to look at all the wasteful spending in the government, and we say, you know what, that is a lot of wasteful spending. Everybody, and there's nobody who's actually upset about it outside of the Democrats. It's because it's exposing their NGOs, whatever. However, that money could be put to something useful, which is the entire point of looking at it. And we're saying, hey, we got an idea. How about you guys pay us that bill you owe us from a few hundred years ago? That's what we're saying. Now
I
you
actually
saying
agree
This
with
is
you,
a,
Kanye. Like, I think, people think that it would cost a lot of money to get. I'm an immigrant here, but I completely understand and support what you're saying. I think that if, acres were given to FBAs, it would actually end up yielding more tax revenue in the longer run,
Right.
and it would end up contributing to and growing the economy if these lands were cultivated. and if they were distributed equally, not in a kind of anti-capitalist sense, but in a sense that it would grow the economy. And also there are so many small holdings up and down America that are kind of going into decline because there's so many elderly people who can't govern these properties or, just manage them. So I think it
Yeah,
makes perfect sense.
deforestation is I mean, the wrong word, but anyway, after the Civil War, I can't think of his name, but it was a general that gave the Black Americans their all the coastline property. And like, yeah, they need this shit, and then the soldiers from the Union came in and reversed it. So it's like when you look at shit like that, it's been happening. And to your point, you know, the government would benefit a lot from American citizens owning this land instead of selling it to pennies to the Chinese. See, that's what's really going on. See, all those solar farms you see popping up all across quote unquote flyover country, those are the Chinese buying that. We don't know what the they put in there. We also know that they've been using secret police stations around the country. They've also been setting up their own infrastructure here in America. We know this, right? This will put a steep decline in that. But they can't see past their hatred for our um justice, right? They have all these ideas of
Getting
why
a
it
lot of
can't be
hatred in
done.
my DMs from people just from having this conversation with you. Let me just say that I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I was just seriously interested in
No,
learning
I just
more.
find it amazing that you understand that our government has done a lot of things that's kind of fucked up,
100% I do. Yeah,
right?
they've done
So
a
and it's
lot of
like when
things
we
for
look
the
at
American
this,
people. Look what happened during COVID. I mean, do they owe us reparations for
yeah.
that?
I mean, listen, if you lost life or you have a legitimate claim and they told you, hey, guess what? For that COVID situation, we f- up on that big time. And guess what? We're gonna give you guys $10,000 apiece because you guys lost a lot. And then, 20 years later,
But
never
then
got
you
your
can
ten
also
thousand
use
dollars.
COVID as an example of what happens when you hand out money to the population at that
No,
scale.
COVID is an
80%
example.
of the
Oh,
80% of the cash flow, 80% of the money in the system right now was handed out and printed during COVID. The
yeah,
result is the
COVID.
highest inflation that we've had to date.
Yeah. That okay. COVID is a perfect example of what happens when you don't hold your government accountable because they were actually going by policies instead of the actual letter of the law, right? Now, speaking of policy, that was an actual policy put in place for us to get 40 acres and a mule. So just like you're saying that, we can actually point the finger at the government and say, hey, you guys didn't uphold the
You
rules
know,
set.
something I would definitely get behind would be Trump has been floating the idea of freeing up federal land. And if you look online, the United States federal government is one of the largest holders of land in the country. It has the largest amount of land that it doesn't use. If there was anything that I thought would be a sellable idea to people like me, it would be to parcel out land to foundational Black
Well,
Americans.
the beauty of it is we don't actually have to convince you. I mean, you're just a guy standing in the way. You have no power, right? Our arguments with the federal government. I do think it's funny that
Guys,
you guys tend to forget that.
I
you
mean, we
know that
live in
there
a
are six
representative
diligent. Did you know that
government,
there are
though,
six?
right? So you do have to convince people.
Not
This
necessarily.
isn't
I
an
mean, hey,
empire or a
okay, you
dictatorship. This
one
is
man, one vote, right?
Diligent. Did you know that there are 640 million acres of
I
federal
represent
land?
the majority, though, sir. What's
Hold on.
that?
Did you know that there are
No, I
640
doubt that.
million acres of federal land owned by America, like owned by the federal government? And did you know that
Yeah, it's in the hundreds of millions
yeah,
or
and did
some
you know
crazy.
70% of all of the holdings, the small holdings at the moment, are going to change hands in the next 20 years, if not go out of business? And
Yeah,
in the
because the baby
last
boomers
one
are
year
gonna die out.
alone, sorry, what's that?
I say yeah, because the baby boomers are gonna die out.
Yeah, and in the last year alone, you saw
Yeah,
something
largest
like
transfer of wealth and land in history.
Wait,
right. So
wait,
it
wait. So
actually
you
does
know
make
this
complete
stuff just like
economic
I know
sense.
that.
It makes economic
So
sense to liberalize like holdings and small holdings and actually pass those over to people who will benefit economically. Like it's actually a way to keep America going past this problem of a declining population,
Well, I'm just
like
if
elderly
the reason
population.
why I brought it up, the reason why I brought it up, Kanye, wasn't to try to like say you don't deserve anything. I'm just saying if we have excess land, and that's something that grows in value over time. The original deal was for land. If what you say is true, I don't know enough about it to speak on whether or not the if every foundational Black American today deserves land or not based on a deal that occurred in the 1800s. But right, if there was the thought of giving away tied up federal land to foundational Black Americans as a form of reparations to help them build something that's going to be generational as far as wealth and prosperity goes, I could get behind that.
well,
But
see,
to
that's why I asked you the question earlier about estates, right? I mean, Michael
oh,
Jackson had
oh,
this estate.
but to write a check that could potentially annihilate the economy that's barely on its feet already is something that I think like is it's kind of like
Well,
unrealistic.
I mean, that depends how you
But
look
you
at
do
it,
agree
right?
with the
You
land
can
part,
literally
right?
hold on one second. That depends how you look at it, right? You can see it as that.
I said I'd be willing to entertain the land part, yeah. And this
No,
is just my
man, who
position.
cares?
I don't run
But back to
anything.
the check situation, right? You do realize, right, that if we gave the land equivalent of that amount, depending on where the land is, it's a lot of money. And however we get it, land, cash, or whatever, um, either way it go, we're gonna put that money right back into America. So it's like a stimulus check if you think about it. Where else we gonna spend the money at?
I mean, again, you're not, again, you're ignoring the fundamental principle of economics with
Not
inflation and
necessarily, because I see that
cash
they have a lot of excess money.
cash supply.
I see they have a
What?
lot of excess money that was going towards something else, and they just freed up a lot of it.
Actually,
It's not
if
excess
you
money.
increase
We
the
have a record
dispersal of
high
land,
30.
Gotcha. So
We have a
real
we have a
quick. So that money they
38
stopped.
trillion dollar
Yeah, I
national
got you
debt.
100%. So that money they
That
put
the
over U.S.
interest on our national
No,
debt
no,
is
facts, facts,
outpacing our
facts.
GDP.
Yeah, all of that has is 100% true what you're saying. However, the money they freed up from USA, where do you think that money's gonna go? I can guarantee it's not going toward the national debt.
Wait, the money that they freed up from USAID, is that what you said?
Yeah, where do you think that money's gonna go?
I have no idea. We're
Well,
2 months in.
if we can both agree that we know, because I think you're smart enough to know that it's not going to go towards the national debt. They're going to say, you know what, we just gonna put a couple $1 billion on the national debt. They're
I
not
mean,
going to
that's
do
the
that.
entire goal of Doge, according to Elon Musk,
They're
is to
not
knock
going to do
down
that,
the national debt by $1 trillion
sir.
through its life.
You and I both know that, and it's a 2-year project. You and I both know that they're not going to do that. They're not going to give that money back to the U.S. debt. They're not going to do that. They're going to spend it on something.
Well,
it's
I
not
mean, that's
saving that much, by
speculation,
the
bro.
way. I think that
Thank
I
you.
doesn't
But
make
can't
any
deal in
sense.
speculation.
the interest on the national debt. You know, we can get into that conversation another day. But you know, like I know, they're gonna spend that money on something. And all we as foundational Black Americans are saying is that money should go toward the bill you owe us. It's like watching somebody get money, getting paid, and they owe you money. Like, hey, you want to pay your bills? And not just you. Like they owe it for a long time. Like long time.
But you just said that it wasn't me that owed you the money. You said it was the government, but you
I'm talking about
literally
the
just
government.
said
I said
it's
it's
a
like
bill.
watching the government
Okay,
who owes
okay,
you
just
money
making
and
sure.
owes you money for a long time. I never said you specifically individual. Like I don't understand why y'all do
That's
it to
fine.
ourselves in front of the government like this. Because any other time when the government does something you disagree with, you like, oh, the government's
It's
infringing on our
something that
rights.
impacts, bro. I'm with you. I like
It,
listen,
I know
but it's
that's why
something
it's
that
blowing my
impacts
mind. I'm listening
everybody.
to you
You act like
defend the
it's an
government.
isolated thing that's not going to affect anybody else or all the other citizens in the country, and it
It will
will. It
benefit them
does.
actually. Like it will.
Thank
If
you.
it's not
Literally,
dispersals
I don't even want to go
in terms
down
of
that
cash,
road.
it will benefit them if it's land. Because again, if you disperse more land, you've got greater housing opportunities, low cost housing. People can maintain small holdings and the farms that are going out of business up and down the country. Just look at the figures for the number of farms in the last year alone that kind of went bankrupt. If you look at the number of people who are required to sustain America's like the agrarian part of the economy, it would actually benefit not only America, it would decrease the pressure on the housing market, and it would actually end up it's a deflationary pressure in the end. I'm not talking about cash dispersal, I'm talking about land in particular. The only kind of issue really is like your definition of FBA. I know you said genetically to define it that way, but I'm curious as to how that would work, because you do your
He said that
genes.
there's an 18, I believe he said 1870 census where you'd be able to trace
Yeah,
the
you can
lineage
literally
back
trace it back to
from
1865 and before that. But
Are the
1865.
records that complete though, guys? Like, I'm not sure how complete
yes,
they
yes,
are
they
because,
are.
like, I
So
You
looked.
would be surprised how,
okay.
to his point, you would be surprised how, I'm sure there's some broken records, but my great grandmother did a lineage book that goes back to the hundreds, all from
It,
traveling
it
to
is
record
easier for
shops
whites
back
to
in the
do that,
70s.
though.
No, no,
It
no.
is
You can
easier for
literally
What's
whites to
that?
do that.
so just to be clear, and here in America, right, they took very detailed census back in the day. And another way you can trace it is if you Black American, you can go to the courthouse and look at the records. Most commerce was done there. So they had auctions and shit like that. You can literally trace your entire family all the way back to damn near wherever they came from.
Marriage
So
certificates, birth
birth
certificates, and death
certificate, yeah, all of that.
certificates. They're all,
Even
yes.
if you go to ancestry.com, you can literally look up. I found my uncle's school yearbook picture from like 1975 or some shit like that. So it's not hard to do, especially here in America when they was meticulous about keeping these records because again, They refer to it as 3/5 of a human being. So we got to make sure you have the number of people you're saying you have. Otherwise, you could cheese the system. And then back
And you
then,
know
people
this
were
this
more.
project to give out land, by the way, it's not a new thing. There's a Peruvian economist called Hernando de Soto who looked at deregularizing kind of the titles proportionate to the number of people who needed land. And then you've got areas like in the Middle East where they, if you're a citizen, right, that you're entitled to a certain amount of land. My late mother's ancestors were South African, and when the apartheid government took their land, we were given back 3 plots of land, not in the same spot, but essentially they just apportioned us 3 plots of land in Cape Town, where some of the land was taken. It is possible to give out land in such a way that it is equitable. The only side of the bargain that needs to be clarified is who gets that land, and like a concrete proposal, like who gets the land, where is that land dispersed, and who gets entitled
What
to it, and
about
how it's
African
taxed.
immigrants that were like post-slavery? So are
They
they
get
not
nothing.
included
They
in
get
this?
nothing. They wasn't here for that. That's a whole different thing. We're not talking about a racism claim. We're talking about a claim for injustice done to us by the government in the form of the 40 acres and mule renege situation. It has nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
What's the
Everything to
That's
do with
the
their
reason
percentage
why
country.
I'm
of like
asking is
what's the
to
percentage of
provide
FBA
clarity. Yeah.
genetically? What's the percentage of FBA genetically that would count as being
If
FBA?
you can trace an ancestor back to 1865.
What
So if
any
you're a
ancestor, but
direct
that could be like
descendant, it doesn't
1%, and
matter.
you've got a
Yeah, if
lot
you're
of
a direct
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
descendant.
whoa, whoa, whoa. There's more to that, by the way. I knew I was gonna
yeah,
hop on that. Yeah, you have to actually, you know,
yeah.
claim your blackness for a generation or two.
Right.
Because you'll have a lot of white people claiming
Right.
that
I know
they've
that's why
got
I said a
one great
generation or
great
two,
grandparent.
because
Yeah.
like you have people who
How
are
do you
not.
claim your blackness? Can you explain that one?
You got to Google that, homie.
Mhm.
You got to buy the book.
Can you just tell me, bro? I just want to
You got to
hear
buy the
your
book.
explanation.
You got to buy the
It's not.
book.
It's not. He doesn't have to educate you, brother. Like
Not
there's a
necessarily.
lot
I'm
of
You
just
got. You just
curious.
got
contributions
to
I
there.
mean,
buy the
we're
book.
having a
He's smart guy.
conversation. If he doesn't want to teach me, that's fine. I can look it up
No,
later.
no.
But
Yeah, there you go.
I'm
You do
just
a good job. Proud of you. Now you're using your resources at hand. But
so.
anyways,
Anyways, well, I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't planning to have this conversation so long, but
me neither.
let me just say this. Let me just ask you this. Okay, so what about fraud? Right? Is there going to be some fraudulent claims made along with this
Probably
once
so,
it's
but we
approved?
probably so, but our government is so good at catching that shit. It's
And
ridiculous. So
plus, yeah,
Is it?
also hold on, they have fraud with the dolls rolls. There's a bunch of most of the people who are claiming to be Native American are not Native American. These are white people who paid $5 to get on the dolls rolls. That's why you have these Cherokee chiefs and the Chickasaw chiefs looking like Justin Timberlake, because these are fake pretendians. So yeah, but nobody cares about them finessing. They still send the money. So send us the money. We'll make sure we're not going to have anybody tethering onto it. We'll do a good job at that.
yeah, we'll
I mean,
start
it
by
is
checking
complicated by
hairlines.
the Amerindians who were forcibly interbred with, like, Black African Americans. I think that is an issue as well, right? It's not the case that it wasn't just there were so many groups who were enslaved. I'm just my father's from Trinidad. This is the experience we learn of when we're in Trinidad in the Caribbean.
Well, yeah, you had well, there were a lot of Black Aboriginal people here who just got reclassified as Negro. This happened big time in Virginia, where you had a lot of the Native American tribes over there. Who a man named Walter Plecker, who was in charge of the vital records there, he just reclassified everybody as Negro. So there were things like that going on that we have to look into. But again, foundational Black Americans, if we can trace our lineage back to the 1870 census, that was one of the first censuses that would have us on there. You are a foundational Black American, and that's relatively easy to do. So we already have things mapped out. We're just trying to find out what the best dollar amount would be and what's the best way to allocate the resources. So it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen.
I think it has so much legs, honestly, because of this baby boomer threat, like with the farm holdings, because there's so many going out of business. It's like a huge threat to the American economy that there's no one there to replace it, and there's all this this land that's going to waste and not being
You almost
looked
said
after.
untethered. Just want to throw that out there.
I know
Let
I
me
was
ask.
thinking of the word tethered
You
in my
did, you
head
did.
anyway.
So let me just,
Sorry.
I want to ask Tariq something. Tariq, you are, it seems like you are pro-Trump. I've heard you speak a number of times. It seems like you're in favor of Trump, or at least the Republican Party as it stands today over the Democrats, because they have lied and used the black Americans for so long. That's my take anyways.
Well, I'm
But
not anti-Trump. I'll say that. When
okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. So let me ask you though: is it not more favorable for reparations with Democrats or a Democrat president as opposed to Trump?
You know what? I don't care. Whoever is going to do it, they're going to do it. Um, a lot of people thought that Lyndon B. Johnson. They kept talking about how much of a hardcore racist he was, which he was. They got audio tapes of him calling Dr. King all types of N words. I mean, he used the N word like a comma. He just used it all the time.
Yeah, LBJ was
He was
horrible.
horrible, but LBJ signed those civil rights bills. You understand? And those were historic bills. They were very, very significant. So I don't care who signs it. If you can have a son of a bitch like him sign a civil rights bill and we get some progress going, I don't care who allocates the reparations. I'm with that because I'm policy driven. I'm not about the Democrats and people coming up hugging us and giving us catfish nuggets and singing Negro spirituals. We need to get down with business. Whoever's going to do business with us, that's who I want to rock with.
Is there a foundational Black American that lobbies Congress? I mean, do you guys have support in Congress at all? Is there legislation being put forth? Where are you guys at?
No, you got the same people like the Congressional Black Caucus, who's filled with tethers. You have a lot of people who are, quote, black, with a big ass quote, who are elevated to undermine our claim. So we're delegitimizing them. And we don't need nobody in place. You know why? Because these illegals don't have nobody. These people aren't even citizens, and they come over here and get all types of resources. So we want the same thing that they get and more because we deserve more. We're not going to play the jump through hoopsism when it comes to us. They tell us we got to do this obstacle course nonsense where we got to go get a form of plebiscite. We got to get a lobbyist. Then we got to get a super PAC. Then we got to meet with the 12 elders of Zion. And then we got to go to the planet Krypton and meet with Jor-El and Superman's granddad and all this stupid shit. No, just cut them damn checks, give us our money, and everything is going to be good so I can go ahead and get me some Louboutin shoes. Yeah, I got a lot of plans with my reparation. I got to get me some Louboutins. I want to get my pool fixed because I want to expand my swimming pool in my backyard. I got shit to do. So let's not waste time. Let's not play this game with giving our money to the Ukraine and immigrants. Allocate that money so that we can do what we need to do with it. Right?
I would much rather see it spent in the United States than see it spent in Ukraine. I'll agree with you on that much.
Man, my man. I would thank you so much, man.